You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
The news of the day comes first, and it's out of the National Football League. Dez Bryant of the Dallas Cowboys has been released. Meeting with owner Jerry Jones this morning, Dez Bryant has been released from the Cowboys. So right off the bat, I usually don't share the top of my show with anybody, but I got to share it with my brother. The greatest cornerback to have ever played in the National Football League, a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest athletes we have ever witnessed in this world in our lifetime. And, of course, an extraordinary NFL analyst for the NFL Network and beyond. The great, the one and only, the Primetime himself, Deion Sanders, is on the line with yours truly. What's up, Big Time? How you doing, man?
What's going on, boss man? It's an honor as well to be with you and to talk to you as normal. I'm sorry, not as well, but it's an honor.
Well, thanks a lot, bro. You know I always appreciate you, man, and I appreciate you coming on at the last minute. I just called you. I told you I needed you on the air to break this stuff down to me. You heard the news. You probably knew it before any of us, knowing how closely connected with the team that you helped capture a Super Bowl champion back in the mid-1990s. Your thoughts about Dez Bryant being released from the Dallas Cowboys today?
First and foremost, with the smoke, there's a fire. So we've been seeing the smoke for quite some time. And when I heard that they were meeting on Friday, normally that's the conclusion meeting. You're going to do this or you're going to do that. That's normally what that is. Now we're here and we understand the consequences of what took place. Now, Dez just tweeted something minutes ago that said this wasn't his decision. And I want to know why. Did they offer you a pay cut? Did they say this is what it's going to be? Or did they just offer you a cut? Pay cut or cut? I don't like it because I still feel, and I know this position, that Dez has something to offer. Is Dez hungry? I believe so. Is he willing to conform to some things? I believe so. Is he still not arguably the best receiver on the roster? I believe so. But you got to understand what took place last year. Okay. Insufficient defense. Quarterback somewhat rattled in the second year. Yep. Zeke not being there for the most part of the year. Offensive line ain't blocked nobody. Can't clear the middle of the field out for no reason with a tight end that can't run like he used to. Now you got your slot receiver not paying dividends like he once did to move the chains. But Dez gets the bulk of the blame. I don't understand it. Is he the Dez that he was several years ago? No. I'm not the man I was yesterday. It's just a natural procession of growth and age. But he still is the best receiver on that team. I don't see a replacement. I don't see where you go from there. I don't see you getting better. Even if you reach down in the draft, it's going to take a rookie a couple years to even get to that point unless you're conceding winning for the next 2-3 years.
Talking to Primetime Deion Sanders right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Dez Bryant was due $12.5 million this upcoming season. A base salary attached to it, a weighty $16.5 million cap hit, according to the NFL.com. So you're talking about the Cowboys, by letting him go, Deion, Primetime, saving themselves about $8 million against the cap this season with the move. When you hear that, does that change your mind in any way?
No, it doesn't.
Why not?
At the worst side of Dez, he's a $12 million receiver. Great receivers are 15, 16, correct?
Yes.
Mid-range receivers, 10 to 12. Average receivers, around the 5 to 7 to 8 range. Dez is that. He's worth that. I don't like the NFL, man, when you could tell the world you gave me a deal, and 3 weeks later you could change, 3 years later you could change your mind. See, what if I change my mind in the middle of a contract and say, you know what? I want some more money. Now I'm the bad guy. I don't like it whatsoever. I wish it was guaranteed like the NBA. When you hear $100 million, they get 100. When you see baseball, when you hear $100 million, they get 100. But when you hear football, they get 100. No, they get 40. And then could get cut if you get sideways on the organization. I don't like it one bit. And I think Dez gave them the best option. No, he wasn't the Dez that we once knew and loved, but the Cowboys hadn't been that team that we once knew and loved.
Primetime Deion Sanders right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Remember the news of the day, the breaking news. The Dallas Cowboys have released wide receiver Dez Bryant. He had been with them the past 8 seasons, played in 113 games over that period of time, caught 513 passes for 7,459 yards and a franchise record 73 receptions. Clearly still the best receiver on the Cowboys. Clearly somebody who is worth $12 million or at least $12 million in the eyes of Primetime Deion Sanders. the greatest corner in the history of football, but yet the Dallas Cowboys released him. So with that being said, Primetime, knowing your connections to the Dallas Cowboys, knowing how much Jerry Jones loves and values you, why do you think Jerry Jones ultimately made this decision to let go of a receiver that clearly is the best option that you have in comparison to whatever else is out there for you?
Not only the best option that you have, but sells apparel as well. It's 88s everywhere. But when it comes down to it, Jerry does business. When someone can show Jerry the business side of this and it don't equate business-wise, and oftentimes that's probably one of his siblings. I mean, that sounds like not siblings, one of his kids.
Right.
To show him that. And it just don't equate. And it should have equated because I don't see where you go from here. I'm saddened for Dez for a simple reason is where does he go from here? Because it's not a lot of teams with a great quarterback that can get you the ball that's still available that has your price tag. It's not a lot of teams that has the necessity of winning and they understand they got to win and they want to win now so you can at least
prime time.
It's not that. So
it's
now,
not a lot. It's not a lot of people that's going to give it $12 million either.
The sunset.
It's not a lot of teams.
You ride off into the sunset with a dismal career, and that's why I feel sorry for Dez 100%. I really do.
But Prime, let me play the devil's advocate here in this particular situation. Dez Bryant, like you said, clearly is not what he used to be. Hasn't had 1,000-yard receiving season since 2014. Of the eight receivers, getting paid $12+ million. I mean, he was the only one that wasn't averaging 1,000-yard seasons in his career. When you take all of those things into consideration.
Okay, now, let me come back at you, Steve, because you know what we do. I know the show that you during there, you're the catalyst of the number one show in the country, how you do it, and I watch you every morning. That's why I got to come back. Now, see, those other receivers that you're talking about, the one thing that they ultimately have consistently is a quarterback. Now, see, you've been going back and forth with the Romos, then who's hurt, then Romo's not in, then he's in. Now you got Dak, okay, rookie. Now you got Zeke in and out. You got the offensive line who gave up, 5 sacks to one man in one game. That don't make sense. So the inconsistency is not just of him. The inconsistency is with his offense and with his team. It's not just Dez. But since Dez is the high-profile figure there, he gets the bulk of the blame. But that comes along with being the dog and being the guy. We know that. We signed up for it. That's how it's going to be. If we're going to make the money, we got to hold down the grunt of the responsibility when it don't work out.
So if that's the case, who you going to point the finger at then, Primetime? Got to be at somebody.
We got to point this finger. We got to point 5 fingers at everybody. Let me tell you something that really has me, that always comes to my remembrance. Do you remember when Dez was in training camp and he looked at the whole defense? He said, you can't guard me, you can't guard me, you can't guard me, you can't. You remember that?
Yes,
you
sir.
Remember that?
Yes.
So when Dez did that, you trying to tell me a guy that has declined is telling your whole defense and your whole secondary that ain't none of y'all can guard me, and that was true. I've gone out there and watched this boy practice, and he is the real deal out there on that practice field, and we wish we could take it over into the game. But if he's doing your secondary like that, what does that tell you about that?
It's a good point. Good point.
That's my problem. That's what I want to know. Somebody got to tell me something about that.
I tell you what's alarming.
I really want to know.
I'll tell you what's alarming me about this as well, Primetime. I pulled up an old story, and you know who it involved, right? Terrell Owens.
Who's that?
Remember when Jerry Jones let him go? I'll read you a headline. I'll read you a headline here. The Cowboys. Listen to this. The Cowboys paid Terrell Owens a $12 million signing bonus just a year before, which was included as part of a new 4-year, $34 million deal. Dallas will take a roughly $9 million salary cap hit with the release of Terrell Owens. All of this sounds incredibly familiar to me. First it was Terrell Owens. Now it's Dez Bryant. What about that element? Does anything about that bother you at all? Same organization.
Well, you got to tie that thread. There's a common thread that's tied to both of those personalities, both of those characters, both of those individuals. There's a common thread tied to that. We know that thread. You could say that thread if you want to, Stephen A., but you know what? I'm not going to do it. This is your show. I'll let you tie this thing up.
You know
I will let you thread this needle like never before. But there's a commonality that ties that together, those two personalities.
Black receivers, relatively outspoken, a bit eccentric in their own ways, speak their mind, but nevertheless find a way to produce and deserve better than what they got. But somehow, some way, the children of Jerry Jones speak up, influence an owner who otherwise wants to keep these guys and convinces Jerry Jones to go in a different direction. Did I miss anything?
Well, if I had an organ right now, I would hit that thing like you was in church. Preach, preacher.
There we go.
Pass the plate.
There we go. Oh, by the way, I just learned some additional news that's coming out of ESPN. Dez Bryant was not offered a pay cut. He was just released primetime. They didn't even.
So he was
him
offered a cut. So you gave him a cut. Yeah. We got to validate that now. We got to validate that to see if that was true, because that's a tough one.
These are insiders for ESPN that have just extended this information to me that Dez Bryant was not offered a pay cut at all. He was just released outright. Wasn't offered a pay cut. Wasn't offered an opportunity to take a lesser salary.
Now, that really sounds familiar to the Terrell Owens situation. It really does. That really sounds familiar. It sounds familiar. Now, the thing about the Dallas Cowboy fans, they're loyal, they're faithful, and I want to ask them the question. So you don't appreciate when you have something, but when it's gone, then you start talking about how good it was. I feel bad for the next receiver that you're going to compare to Dez every time something don't go right. Then I feel sorry for Dak, because Dak is going to have to deal with this mess. Because if Zeke don't rush for 15 to 1,700, you're going to have a problem on the outside, because I don't see the problem solved in the draft. I don't see the problem solved in free agency. I don't see the problem solved on your roster right now. And the NFL is just sat back in rocking chairs and let the Rams build this dream team that I don't even understand how we doing that.
And the one thing that I will say that they got some cover with Dez Bryant is that we just watched the Green Bay Packers let go of Jordy Nelson against the wishes of Aaron Rodgers without offering him a pay cut and giving him an opportunity to stay on board. So the Dallas Cowboys could say, listen, this is not the only guy this has happened to. It even happened to Jordy Nelson. What do you say to that?
Yeah, that is true. And there are reasons. I feel bad for both parties, especially the fans. I really do. And Dez, because oftentimes, and we've seen this a million times, Stephen, and you know it, usually when a high-profile guy like this goes somewhere else, it just never works out. And I hope he has that dog still in him, which I know he has, and I hope he has that thing that's inside of him that connects him to the heartbeat of these fans, and he go out there and prove the whole country that he still can do it like I know he can. I want him to have that element in it. I still believe in Dez Bryant.
Where would be the ideal landing spot for him now that you know he's no longer a Dallas Cowboy?
Well, this is three-tiered, Stephen. It is three-tiered. First of all, if your money funny, you got to go somewhere to get the money, okay? Now, second, if your money ain't funny, you got to get a quarterback who can stand and deliver. Now, if those two things are straight, you got to go with a team that has the capability of winning. See, that's a whole formula in itself when you out there like Gilligan on this island and you trying to find home. You got to make sure your money's straight. If your money's straight, it cannot bother you. And okay, let me go get me a quarterback. But then, how many teams are out there can really pay you right now? How many teams are out there do still need something to probably make you a one? Because there still wants to be a one. He don't want to go nowhere to be a 2 or 3. He don't want to go there.
He might have to settle for that at this point in time in his career, prime time.
Yep, but I don't think he's equated that mentally. That takes a lot mentally to equate. Saying, okay, now I got to be a 2 or 3. That's a lot, man. Well, you used to being a dog. When you used to being that thing on a leash. Now they just throwing you out there in a kennel and say, just go around here with the rest of the dogs and meander. That's hard, man, mentally and emotionally for somebody that has had that Cowboy star in '88 and is not understanding that you're going to get 88 where you go.
Last few questions.
This ain't no joke, man.
I got you. Last few questions before I let you get on out of here. Hey, how much culpability does Dak Prescott have in all of this, considering the fact that Dez's best years was with Tony Romo and the slides that we're pointing to happened with Dak Prescott as the quarterback?
Well, Tony Romo was a veteran quarterback when he was with Dez. He got all his hiccups out of it. But before all that happened, he got all his hiccups in the pre-TO era. Now, Dak is one of the most efficient quarterbacks year one. Year two, he had some hiccups because the line was insufficient. The line was insecure. The line wasn't what it was supposed to be. And Zeke didn't play a full season of games. That really hurt them.
What culpability does Jason Garrett and offensive coordinator Scott Linehan have in all of this?
Man, tell you something. Jason Garrett just a year removed from being coach of the year. Now, let's not forget that.
Okay.
Let's not forget. You don't forget how to coach in a year. Mm-hmm. So let's stop that shenanigans.
Okay.
Sooner or later, we got to look at players and point to players and say, do your job, man. Okay. Quit blaming it on coaches all the time and do your darn job.
Mm. What about the offensive line? What about the offensive line that you've alluded to?
Oh, they ain't blocked nobody. Now, when they are injury prone last year, they right. sustained a bunch of injuries, man, and that took a toll on them. It really did.
You know, Dez.
When Zeke is running, they ball. When Zeke is running, everything works.
You know Dez better than most. What do you think, from what you know of Dez, where do you think he'd want to go from here?
Somewhere that has a good quarterback that he can win. I just feel bad for him. I just hope emotionally he can handle this. It's hard, man. This is the first time in your life that somebody tells you they don't want you. You know how hard that is mentally for an athlete? That is tough, man.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.